Well, we have some great candidates that we've been working very hard to get into the top two so that they can run in November. So we're looking at several assembly and congressional seats. About the presidential primary?
Yeah.
Well, we of course went through our own primary in 2016 with a lot of different candidates, and so I certainly can't be critical of so many people wanting to run for president. And I'm sure that the Democrats were sitting back and enjoying that whole debate. And now, quite frankly, we're sitting back and looking at what it's bringing out in these different candidates, and a lot of it is some of the truth of their background that we think is important for people to see. So I'm not surprised that candidates are now dropping out and supporting Vice President Biden. I know that there are some folks at the DNC that are freaking out that Bernie Sanders might be the nominee. So again, we're just sitting back and observing, and it's on them. I don't know that he ever really thought that Senator Biden, or excuse me, Vice President Biden would make it this far. I think he knew that Bernie Sanders would be a strong candidate. He certainly has a strong following. Buttigieg was kind of the big unknown because I don't think anyone expected him to rise as quickly as he did, but he's very articulate and very likable, and so he certainly had his following. Elizabeth Warren, what can I say about Elizabeth Warren? I don't think she's a very attractive candidate. I think that she's kind of her own worst enemy. But I'm really not surprised at how any of it went. I was just thinking that there might be a new fresh face that might make it further. Well, this isn't Bloomberg's first rodeo. He, of course, was very involved in 2016, especially down in Orange County, putting millions of dollars into those House races that were lost just in those last weeks. That was because of a huge amount of money that he put into those races for the Democrats. So we're aware of what Bloomberg is capable of doing with his money. But now he's the candidate, and he's the one out front in front of the cameras, and he's the one with the history that people are discovering. And I don't think he's going to go anywhere. Well, I think the fact that taxes are being raised and services are being reduced, I think that's something that a lot of people are very concerned about. We have a huge unfunded pension liability in this state. And all of these taxes that are being raised in the name of helping kids or fixing roads or whatever are really being done because we have this huge unfunded pension liability. And we're seeing now as Governor Newsom takes the money from the gas tax and uses it for other purposes, and we're seeing it at the local level as well. I think that's something that frustrates people because they can't believe what people say when they put these initiatives up. So certainly more taxation and reduced services is a huge issue. Well, we have some great candidates. We have a gentleman named Eric Regard in Assembly District 9. He's running against Jim Cooper. It's the Elk Grove area up to South Sac. And he's going into communities that we haven't traditionally reached out to. And he's talking to them about, he's reciting the Republican platform and saying, what do you think about this? What do you think about the life issue? What do you think about taxation? What do you think about what's happening in our schools? And people are agreeing with his point of view. And then he's saying, well, guess what? That was the Republican platform. And people are surprised because they have been told that we're one thing when in fact we may be another. And I really believe that everyone cares about solving the homelessness problem. I think no one wants a drought, and everyone wants to have clean water and clean air. It's just how we go about solving the problem. And unfortunately, over the past couple of decades, the legislature, which has been completely controlled by the Democrat Party, has been passing bill after bill after bill, creating more and more layers of government, and yet we are still seeing reduced services. And so Republicans want to come in and say, here's what we think you should do with the existing resources that you have to actually solve problems. And that's what we want the chance to do. Well, we're always amused when we hear Governor Newsom and others say we think the rest of the nation should be more like California. And we think, well, yes, you brag about being the fifth largest economy in the world, but who's benefiting from that? We have a third of our people living in poverty in California. We have half the nation's homeless population here in California. Something is wrong if we are the fifth largest economy. This is mismanagement. And so that's why we feel that it's unrealistic for people to think that making the rest of the nation like California is going to be productive. I think they just have to step back and say, how's it working, having the Democrats in control? How's it working? Are you seeing increased crime in your community? Because there's no longer consequences for going in and robbing a store or breaking a window and breaking into a car. There's no consequences for that. And how's that working for you? Do you feel safe walking on the streets? Do you feel comfortable stepping over a homeless person on the sidewalk while we are giving away benefits to people who have just come into this country? And we're not taking care of the people who are lying on our sidewalks. So I just think that people have to step back and say, is the state being managed properly? Are our funds being managed properly? And they have to say no. I think the best thing to do is to talk about your personal experience. How is the existing leadership and the resulting policies, how is that affecting you personally? Because no one can argue with you saying I was robbed, or I don't like the fact that my kid graduated from high school and he can't read and write. You know, when you have personal experiences that you share with other people, no one can argue with you about that. But it's important that you open your mind to listen to what other people are experiencing as well. And I think that's the only way you can have a civil conversation. Well, I think a lot of the change happened today when the candidates who, on the Democrat side, who dropped out of the race are all jumping on board the Biden train. And I think today was the day when things really started to change. However, uh, it's very, very possible that Bernie Sanders is going to come out of here with a huge proportion of the California delegates. And he may get some in Texas, but I don't think a lot. Um, and I think that it's going to be a wild convention. And the Republicans, I'm going to be at the convention in North Carolina, and I know we're going to go and we're going to have fun. And I feel sorry for my Democrat colleagues who are going to be going to a convention that's going to be a tough one.